Children should not be instructed that there is no such thing as girls and boys. That's not even the position of the left that is
No.
even proclaiming this. No one is saying that girls and boys don't exist. If anything, that's the exact opposite of what they're saying. They're trying to say that people who identify as girls and boys are valid as girls and boys. So they got it completely wrong there. It is March 18th, 2022, and in this video we're going to be responding to this Flipside report on the Florida Education Bill, aka the Don't Say Gay Bill. This report is from March 10th, so 8 days ago from the time filming this. Everything on here is still accurate to the day. It has been passed by the Florida legislature, but hasn't been signed by Ron DeSantis yet, who has signaled he's going to sign it. But yeah, this is the first video where I've shown my girlfriend. So yeah. What's your name again?
Noelle.
Tell the audience where you're from originally.
Okay, so I am originally from Iowa, and right now I'm in college studying political science and sociology.
The Florida Education Bill. Florida's Republican-dominated legislature passed a bill Tuesday to forbid instruction on sexual orientation and gender identity in kindergarten through third grade. The bill states classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3 or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards. That's from AP News. And the bill also requires schools to adopt procedures for notifying a student's parent if there is a change in the student services or monitoring related to the student's mental, emotional, or physical health or well-being, and the school's ability to provide a safe and supportive learning environment for the student. The first issue that I've noticed just from this description of it, when you say the school should notify the parent if there's a change in the student's services, I mean, that could be as much as they want to be referred to as like a different pronoun than they were previously. Like that is a change that it seems like they would refer to the parents, and that basically outs them to not necessarily supportive parents that could be conservative, might be abusive, you have no idea. So that's just not something that parents should necessarily be being tipped off on.
Like you said, you have no idea what their family situation is, so that's a huge problem. For example, conversion therapy is still legal in a majority of the United States. And so because of that, it's like you have no idea, if they find out, could send their child to something like that. And that has been proven to be completely detrimental to their well-being.
So from the left opposes this bill, arguing that it will harm LGBTQ youth and those with non-traditional families. When children come from non-traditional families, they need to be seen and recognized, not treated as so weird and deviant that their parents' relationship is unspeakable in school. When all the adults in a place are modeling exclusion and discrimination, kids will too. Yeah, that sounds completely right to me, and I presume to you.
Yes.
Whatever your views on LGBTQ rights and gender identity, barring teachers from even recognizing that gay people exist forces them to lie to their students and break down trust between students and educators. After all, millions of students nationwide have gay parents, siblings, friends, aunts, uncles, and on and on. They watch gay celebrities on television and in movies. Many will identify as LGBTQ themselves. Barring the mention of reality doesn't make reality cease to exist. Senator Jeff Brands, Republican from Florida, had proposed an amendment that attempted to remove the perceived stigmatization of LGBTQ people in the bill while still meeting DeSantis' objective. His amendment banned instruction of human sexuality for children in third grade and under instead of signaling out sexual orientation or gender identification. It had support from Democrats and LGBTQ advocates, but his Republican colleagues voted down the amendment. LGBTQ Floridans once hoped DeSantis could be an ally, not anymore. And that's from CNN. I don't even support that. I think that the human body in general, I don't know why you wouldn't be showing that to kids, especially with, the risk of them being sexually assaulted and molested and that sort of thing. If they know what their private parts are, what they're used for and that sort of thing, what is appropriate, what is inappropriate, then they're more likely to speak out and actually know when they're being molested. If they have no idea basically what's going on because they've never been instructed on that sort of thing, then what do you expect to happen? There's going to be less reporting and the children won't be as equipped to deal with things like that.
So many kids are not aware of their own body, and it's so important. We have this kind of idea, and I think in Western culture just overall, that the idea of sex and all of that is just bad or it's wrong when it's not. And I understand the point to an extent that they are young kids and wanting to protect that innocence, but you know, at the end of the day, things happen, and it's always better for them to at least have some kind of knowledge of what's going on. And that includes, of course, not just heterosexual, you know, relationships or that norm. You know, it's also important to include education about LGBTQ relationships as well.
Republicans, in their eagerness to get the Don't Say Gay bill across the finish line, revived a repulsive homophobic myth that queer people are pedophiles who recruit children. The bill that liberals, and this is a quote, the bill that liberals inaccurately called Don't Say Gay would be more accurately described as an anti-grooming bill, Christina Pushaw, DeSantis' longtime press secretary, wrote over the weekend on Twitter. She followed up by saying that anyone who opposes the bill is probably a groomer. The term groomer, of course, is just another word for child molester, as actual pedophiles are known to groom their victims before assaulting them. But I can't believe this needs to be said in the year 2022. There's no evidence that LGBTQ people molest children at a higher rate than straight identified people. Especially when you're saying that if you're opposed to this bill, you're probably a groomer because you're against teachers teaching students about the human body and, you know, everything like with sexuality and gender identity. It's like, if anything, more grooming would happen if you don't teach them about this sort of stuff. And it shouldn't be up to the parents, again, because they don't necessarily know what's right for their children. Like, you can be all mad at me and everything and say, oh yeah, you know, it's our decision what we do with our children and that sort of thing. If you're not looking out for their best interests, just like how if you weren't feeding them like a healthy diet, like, yeah, the state should intervene. And again, as far as I'm concerned, if you're saying that, you know, if, you know, the teachers teaching the kids, they would be the groomers, you know, because the students would know about sexuality and switch to gay or something, as if that's how it worked. The vast majority of the time, as far as I'm concerned, the teachers that end up having sex with their students are males having sex with females, or, you know, female teachers having sex with male students, basically. It's usually not gay or even, you know, trans teachers or whatever. So it just makes absolutely no sense. I don't see how in any way teaching kids about gender identity and sexuality would correlate to them being groomed. If anything, the opposite would be the case.
I like what she said about there's no evidence that LGBTQ people molest children at a higher rate than straight identified people. The fact that we're acting as if this is an LGBTQ exclusive issue is just ridiculous, because it's not, and it never has been.
These measures are rooted in the anachronistic belief that discussions about gender and sexuality somehow endanger children, but for many LGBTQ kids, schools can be an important lifeline for information and a source of comfort that they are not alone. In a recent survey, the Trevor Project found that 42% of LGBTQ youth seriously considered suicide in the past year. Eliminating mention of these topics will only isolate these children further and deprive students of a chance to learn about their identities and those of their peers. Yes, I agree with that. Do you have anything to say about that?
I mean, the stats of, you know, it's 42% have considered suicide it's just crazy to me. And, you know, a lot of that is due to the fact that so many people don't really know what's going on, and there's so much misinformation out there, and that really does take a toll on their mental health. And same thing with how I talked about conversion therapy earlier. That takes a serious toll on their mental health, and that's been proven. I just hope that people can see that this bill is just would be terrible for their mental health, and you just can't let that happen, especially for young kids.
Proponents of such bills routinely invoke the boogeyman of school systems infringing on parental rights, arguing that such conversations should be led by parents and families. Of course, parents have an important role to play, and educators should generally be mindful of parental concerns. These bills, however, are an intrusive attempt to restrict speech in schools, and just like efforts against the specter of critical race theory, they seek to expunge important truths about our history and world from classrooms. Yes, I think there's no disagreement on that here. So from the right supports the bill, arguing that it is necessary to keep young children from being exposed to age-inappropriate material. Critics have pejoratively described the bill as censorship, but it is perfectly appropriate to censor adult themes and ideas around small children. So you're basically just trying to imply your conclusion just straight off the bat by saying that it's adult themes and ideas. Who's to say it's adult themes and ideas? Sexuality and identification, that's in no way exclusive to adults. Children do have sexuality, even if they haven't hit puberty. Oftentimes, there are still traces of what is to come, and they still do have different desires that could be considered sexual desires that are perfectly natural and that we all basically have and had when we were that young. Um, so it just makes no sense to just try to pigeonhole these ideas as adult themes. And, if you pigeonhole them as adult themes, again, you're not giving, children the information they need to make informed decisions and make sure that, they can report and not get groomed, basically.
It's been shown that kids usually know their sexual orientation fairly early on in life. And it's weird because I think that they're assuming that, when they talk about adult themes, that they're talking about sex exclusively. But that's not really the case. I mean, this is a spectrum. It's not just sexual in nature. It's also talking about relationships and other things like that, and it doesn't have to be sexual, and children are exposed to that at such a young age. Something that I've heard is pretty common people bring up is like Disney movies, how there's always kind of that love interest and you're seeing a relationship or something like that, and it's between usually a guy and a girl. And so it's like children are being exposed to those ideas so early on, so this just really doesn't make much sense.
Teaching sexuality from kindergarten to third grade, I don't think what schools were teaching beforehand or do in general teach is specifics like the nitty gritty about actual sex. The most they probably say about the specifics is that gay men like other men, gay women like other women, and that sort of thing. Trans people are people who had a certain gender appointed to them, but now they identify as a different gender. They don't go into specifically, oh yeah, this is what gay sex is, or this is how they do it, or some, weird stuff like that. It just makes no sense to say that these are adult topics. What about gay people existing is an adult topic? Beyond teaching the acceptance of differences, why confuse children under 8 years old, most of whom do not yet understand the biology of sexual reproduction? Well, why teach children anything about biology then? If you're scared, if you just don't want to confuse them, why don't you just really dumb down the educational level? I was confused a hell of a lot in school. That doesn't mean I go whine about it and try to make them stop teaching things just because they're complicated. I think that philosophy should be taught in school so that we have a more, morally just nation and that sort of thing. So should just everything that's complicated not be taught in school? That's not to say that something should be taught just because it's complicated, but that definitely has a place. That's just a completely stupid argument. Confusing children at school, that's partly the point. Confusion is a necessary step in learning oftentimes. What need is there for schools to introduce young children to the highly contentious metaphysical claim that your sexed body may not be your true gender? At the end of the day, I think that the need there is that if they identify as a different gender than the one they were appointed when they were born, and that's not being recognized, and they're not really being in a welcomed environment, again, their risk for committing suicide shoots way up. And again, so I just said that I'm for teaching philosophy in school. So what if we're teaching them about, metaphysical claims? I think it's also kind of, bad intention to even call that a metaphysical claim. I mean, technically it is, but that would be under a very loose definition of metaphysical, because metaphysical is basically everything that is non-physical. You could really talk about like anything that is a priori knowledge would technically be metaphysical, which I guess, labels and titles and everything, I guess that would fall under that. But then again, I think they're just calling it metaphysical to try to make it sound more like, ridiculous than it actually is.
What bothers me about that in particular is that, they're saying this highly contentious claim that, the body you were born into may not be who you really are. That really bothers me because it's like, this is specifically targeting trans youth, right? And it's so upsetting because it's like they exist. Like this isn't... I really that gets to me in particular, just because it's like these kids, these people, they exist. This isn't something that's like, whoa, like out of the blue. Like, these people exist and they deserve the right to just be who they are and to be completely loved and accepted for that.
And also, as far as I'm concerned, sociologists and stuff, the experts in this field, they do recognize that gender and sex are two different things,
Yes.
and that gender is what you
Yes.
identify as. Sex would really correspond to your, sex organs and that stuff that you were born with, and that sort of thing.
Actually, since you brought up the sociology part of it all, the sociological perspective, I guess, it's interesting because I was actually just reading about this, and specifically with sociology, they would describe sex as your like biological characteristics. So it's purely biological. That's what sex is. Whereas gender, that one does get a little bit more complicated, but essentially it is, just how you see yourself and how you feel. So yes, so it's like they are two different things. They're not one and the same. So it's important to recognize that.
These are not hypothetical concerns. In November, the Little John family filed a lawsuit against Leon County School Board in Federal District Court in Northern Florida after they were excluded from welfare decisions regarding their 13-year-old daughter. The Little Johns had informed the school that their daughter was confused about her gender and made clear that they did not consent to social transition. So who's to say that it was a social transition? I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that. Like social transition into her being confused about her identity and that sort of thing. So instead of limiting information and censorship and that sort of thing, which conservatives oftentimes say they care about until the speech that would be censored, hurts them, then they're all for censorship. Why would it be bad for a 13-year-old to be confused about what they identify as? I think at that point you should say, well, yeah, if you're confused, that's fine. You have time to figure it out. You have your entire life to figure that out. You don't even have to be sure about that, okay? You could be, referred to as they, them, or whatever if you want, okay? Just like how if a little kid basically has somewhat of an existential crisis because they were taught about philosophy and they don't know if they're a moral realist or a moral subjectivist, again, like that doesn't seem like such a huge issue. If anything, that's a big block in their intellectual growth and that sort of thing. It's important to have, these existential questions and that sort of thing, and you should be having them as young as possible, and then you can have a life basically on the track that you set out for yourself, instead of, being like fucking 50 and like melting down because you led a life that you're not ultimately satisfied with.
My thoughts with this in particular is just children should have every right to explore who they are. This shouldn't be this highly contested thing, I'm straight, I'm cisgender, but it's like nobody would have said, oh, you don't really have room to explore that. Nobody's gonna shut down that idea, and so kids who are questioning their gender identity or their sexual orientation, they should be allowed to have that same freedom, that same space to do that.
However, it later transpired that school staff had held private meetings with her asking which pronouns she would prefer, that's some horrible thing, which restrooms she would like to use, whether she would like to stay with the boys on overnight trips, and whether they should keep her parents in the dark. So whether she should stay with the boys on overnight trips, again, the only issue with that would basically be the same issue as if she was with girls. The only difference there between her staying with girls and her staying with boys is I think that just purely from a statistical standpoint, it's more likely that a boy will be interested and want to do sexual stuff with her than a girl. But at the end of the day, I think that when it comes to bathrooms and even as far as prisons and that sort of thing, it shouldn't be separated based on gender or sex. I think that security should just be ramped up to such an extent that it would be basically impossible for any rape or any assault in general to happen. That's how strict I think it should be. if anything, there should almost be as many guards as there are inmates, or as many, staff as there are students, and that sort of thing. So stuff can be prevented, and they're being, watched very closely, and that sort of thing. And, asking which pronouns she would prefer, like, that's just common decency at this point. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
I just want to give a shout out to the school staff who did this because, I know that just had to mean the world to her, to feel like people accepted her and were willing to, accommodate her. And it feels so weird to even say that because, like you were saying, it is just basic human decency at this point. So, but, yeah, shout out to them because
Although,
not everybody would do that.
it is kind of weird to think that Florida, because as much as you would think Florida is just this super conservative state because it does have a Republican-dominated legislature and governor, when it actually comes to how many Republicans are in there and how much political influence they actually have a lot less than they even do in Utah. But the thing is, the Utah governor, Spencer Cox, he's much further to the left on social issues like this than Ron DeSantis is. So Florida, and partly because it is a swing state, it's much more far to the right. Stuff like this, you wouldn't expect that in Utah, but, well, unless it's in like Salt Lake County and that sort of thing. But here, I mean, I think Biden got like, 48% of the vote in Florida. That's nothing to scoff at. That's basically half of the entire population that voted for Biden. So it's not like there's just not that many Democrats there. No, there are tons of Democrats there. They voted for Obama in 2012 and 2008. And they barely voted for Trump in 2016. It's not too surprising to see stuff like that, although, again, like in this America, like, yeah, it kind of is. Many people believe that classroom teachers should not show young, impressionable children pictures that depict breast binding or encourage physically altering their growing bodies. They don't want children in early elementary grades to read books or use gender coloring books, encouraging them to disassociate their minds from their bodies and to focus on sex and sexuality at such a young age. So again, I've already responded to most of what they said there. And again, when it comes to little kids, it depends how young they are. And, we might disagree on this, but I don't think that really there should be any major medical decisions made when they're super, super young. When they get a little bit older, and again, this would depend on statistics and that sort of thing. Like, for the same reason that I would be against a kid getting some weird surgery that will like make their face look a different way, and could cause irreversible changes to them. I don't think that they should go through transitioning when they're like 10 or 11 or anything like that. I think that should be waited until they get a little bit older again, but I'd be up to changing my mind depending on the statistics of how many people would actually regret that decision. But in general, no matter what the studies say, I'd say that, like, even if you are concerned about students trying to alter their bodies, or even if they actually do, even if they do manage to actually get medical professionals to help them transition, like, the way to make sure they don't make the wrong decision isn't by censoring the information. The way that they would make the right decision is by showing them the information. If you don't show them all the information, they're more likely to make the wrong decision and, basically think they're trans when they're really not, or make some, weird decision because they just don't have the correct information.
So, I fully appreciate your point on about transitioning at an early age. I will say I slightly disagree. Only because I've read multiple things about how harmful it can be for kids to just, who are experiencing, I'm trying to think of the word.
Gender dysphoria?
Yes, thank you. That's just incredibly harmful. That puts them at such a high risk of attempting suicide. And that's something I feel very strongly about. But I understand your point, but I think also going along with your point that you made about making an informed decision, obviously showing them this information is incredibly important, because just like, for any of us, when we're making, a big decision, you can't just go in uninformed, because that's going to be a problem. But I think that, I think as long as it's not going to cause them immense, harm, then I'm okay with it, just because I think that, if it's what they need and it's what they want, then they should have the freedom to do that.
And I would presume that the reason why oftentimes if they don't get gender affirming surgery that they would feel so much worse is because they're not in an accepting environment. So again, I would say more studies probably need to be done for me to have like a fully like policy view on what should happen here. But I think there should be more studies done on if they feel as negatively about not having gender affirming surgery if they're in a more accepting environment. Because if they're not in an accepting environment, maybe they'll think, oh well, they'll only accept me as a girl, for example, if I actually look like a girl. But in a society where they're actually accepted and seen as the gender they prefer, maybe they wouldn't have such a be so inclined to get surgeries like that. And I think in general, for various reasons, I don't think we should I don't think it's good for people to think that there's something wrong with their bodies to the point where they need to change it. It's not like the biggest deal or something I'd make illegal, and I would even go as far as to say like plastic surgery, Botox and that sort of thing. Any sort of changing up of like your face or anything that's just purely for so that people see you differently. I don't really think that's a good thing because I think that the risks outweigh the benefits. Like you may feel better, but again, we should just try to manufacture a society where you don't feel so bad about how you look. So then you wouldn't have to go through the pain of recovering from surgery. And then again, all the resources needed for, the surgery that could have been probably put to better use on people who are actually dying and in pain and that sort of thing.
Well, I also think that one thing that's important to note with gender affirming care is not everybody who is trans wants that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that's important to note as well. So for people to assume that just because somebody doesn't feel at home, it doesn't mean that they're going to have surgery. Mm-hmm. So I just think that's important to note because I feel like that's a pretty common misconception.
Mm-hmm. Young children don't need to be shown a Blue's Clues Pride Parade video celebrating transgenderism and pansexuality or queer kid stuff videos that train them to ask people for their pronouns or be told that doctors are sometimes wrong when assigning gender. So I think that different language needs to be used here. I don't think necessarily that it is that doctors are wrong. I don't really think it's the doctor's place to affirm what gender you are. I think they affirm what sex you are, and they think that sex corresponds to gender, but doctors aren't sociologists. And this is a relatively new concept, so I'm not saying like, oh yeah, all these doctors are a piece of shit for not being conscious of this. But then again, I think going forward, we should keep the sex intact. If anything, we could say that if you have a vagina or whatever, then you're a female. If you have a penis and, testicles and that sort of thing, you're a male or a biological male. And we could, cater the language to, whatever would be most conducive to, the thoughts and feelings of people, because facts care about your feelings. If you haven't noticed, that's how language works.
I mean, language is an incredibly important and powerful thing. I always, something that I always say that I'm trying to kind of fix is always be like, oh, hey guys, especially in, when I have to respond to discussion posts for assignments or stuff, we'll be like, oh, hey guys. And instead I'm like, okay, try to be more inclusive, just because you don't know somebody's non-binary, if they go by they, them pronouns, things like that. So that's incredibly important. I also, again, I don't, when they say assigning gender, doctors do not assign gender. Again, they're two different things. They will assign your biological sex. And even, like you said, just changing it to say this is their biological sex, I think would do a lot, so it's being this is biologically, what you were born as. So I think that's incredibly important. And also I want to say with this, the idea of this, young children don't need to be shown a Blue's Clues Pride Parade celebrating transgenderism and pansexuality. Again, these people exist. It is okay for people to see them, and it's even more important actually for kids to see that they're celebrating who they are, because there's no reason that they should feel ashamed of who they are in any way.
Children should not be instructed that there is no such thing as girls and boys. That's not even the position of the left that is
No.
even proclaiming this. No one is saying that girls and boys don't exist. If anything, that's the exact opposite of what they're saying. They're trying to say that people who identify as girls and boys are valid as girls and boys. So they got it completely wrong there. Lest this sound like an unlikely scenario, a lawsuit is being filed by a Canadian mother whose 6-year-old daughter was taught girls are not real and boys are not real at school. I seriously doubt that's actually what they taught. Maybe the kid was just, again, confused, and I'm not saying it's
I mean, they
super
are
bad.
6.
Yeah.
It's a 6-year-old.
It's like, and you're taking the credit of what a 6-year-old said for what they were taught as if that's actually what they were taught. It's like, if a kid said that, they were taught that, 2 + 3 = 4, like, are you going to take that seriously too? I seriously doubt that's what they were taught. And if they were taught that, then I would be against that. We should not be, like, that's not even in favor of what, like, we're advocating for, is to say that, oh yeah, girls and boys don't exist. Like, that makes no sense.
It's more we're just advocating for that it's a spectrum. It's not just one or the other. Same thing, like, with gender identity. I mean, it's the same thing with sexual orientation, It's not just either you're straight or you're gay. It's a spectrum.
It's more than understandable that parents have asked legislatures to curb such gender ideology activism in schools. I don't think it's understandable at all.
No. Not in any way.
No one wants a child to feel not valued or conform to one point of view. Yeah, so why do you want to, censor and make sure that they are only exposed to one point of view at school? The problem is that progressives think that their point of view is the only one and everyone else agrees. No, we know that other people disagree, but they're wrong is the thing. Even if I don't even have to sit here and try to prove, objective morality and stuff, empirically, if you're against children committing suicide and if you want what's in the best interest of people in general, then we are right. If that is the basis, it's just empirically true that if kids are in a more accepting environment and if kids have the information necessary, they'll make better decisions when it comes to something as, not as serious as, what they identify as, and then something as serious as being groomed. Like, this information helps. Information doesn't hurt you. What conservatives might disagree with that because they like to deny anything that hurts their feelings. Otherwise, opponents are labeled as homophobic or anti-LGBTQ. Yeah, when you're trying to ban teaching about this in any grade, yeah, you are anti. That's like saying, if you're against teaching about, slavery and that sort of thing, like, yeah, you are anti-black to a significant extent. You're not wanting to teach about the history and the horrible things that happen so that it doesn't repeat itself, and so there's just more awareness about what actually happened. What Republicans are pushing, though, for is allowing young children to just be children. No, you're trying to manufacture their identity and not let them choose for themselves, so it's the opposite of what you're saying.
A big part of letting kids be kids is just being who they are, and so it's like you're literally trying to censor that. So, no, you're not trying to let kids just be kids.
The teacher can monitor a student-led discussion on LGBTQ issues should a child bring it up in class. So, again, that's not enough.
No.
I think teachers should be leading education about that, just like how they should be leading education about other things. I was taught a whole bunch of fucking stupid bullshit in 2nd grade about stuff that I'll never even really care about. Like, they taught us about teeth a little bit. And, like, yeah, that's cool. They should teach you to, like, brush your teeth and everything and how to clean them. But they taught us, like, oh, yeah, what the different teeth are called and that sort of thing. It's like, who the fuck cares? It would have been much better to teach me about something like morals and stuff like that, about gender identity. That'd be a lot more fucking beneficial to me in my learning than, the nitty-gritty about teeth that I don't even fucking remember. It's not enough for, a student randomly brings it up, which, to their credit, a student probably will at some point. But the teacher can't say anything. Like, who are they supposed to look to for guidance on this issue? Are they just supposed to believe their, other students? And again, like they said, yeah, students are impressionable. So you would rather them be instructed by another student who's probably brainwashed by their parents rather than a teacher who, could be briefed on the curriculum that would actually, they could actually teach the right stuff about gender and the scientific consensus by sociologists and stuff like that. That just makes absolutely no sense.
Something that I think is important to note on that too is they're just assuming that a child will bring it up in class, but it's like children they're not stupid. I mean, somebody might very well bring it up in class, but also if they're in an environment where it's not very accepted, they're gonna know that and they're less likely to bring it up. So yeah, it's not enough to say that, oh yeah, we can talk about it if a kid brings it up. Like, no, it should be a part of your curriculum.
A young child may bring up that he or she has two moms, for example, and that can start a conversation in a classroom. Yeah, maybe a conversation that is extremely homophobic and hurtful. It's important that it is an age-appropriate discussion. There's nothing not age-appropriate about teaching about these issues. The bill is a simple acknowledgement that very young children should not have to learn about mature topics in early elementary schools. Again, it's just a baseless assertion that these are mature topics.
I want to go back a little bit because how it talks about it's not allowed to be a part of the curriculum. Another important thing as to why it should be a part of the curriculum is because they're regulated. So whereas when it says a young child may bring up that he or she has two moms and that could start a conversation, not all teachers are going to be accepting of that. Mm-hmm. So you have to keep in mind that when it's regulated through the curriculum, you know, they're like, okay, this is kind of what we're going to talk about. Whereas when they're like, oh, this can just spark a conversation, what's to stop an educator from being like, oh, well, that's wrong or anything like that. You know, nothing's really stopping them, and that is not okay.
All right, guys, so that's the end of the article. Do you have anything you want to say to wrap it up, or is that just about it?
Am I allowed to say just like, don't be an asshole, please? Like, yep. This is just basic human decency, you know? I mean, come on. It's as simple as that, you know? Don't be a jerk.
I hope you liked the video, and make sure to have a nice day or night, everybody.